Hi, I'm Anne from Game Like a Mother. Today I'm going to show you how to play Royal Visit. It's ages 8 and up, 2 players, and it takes 20 minutes. Let me show you how to play. The goal of the game is to get either the king or the crown into your chateau, one of your chateau spaces, and then you win. If you go through the deck of cards twice and no one's managed that, whichever person has the king on their side of the board in their duchy would be the winner. For game setup, they have a nice shortcut for you to remember where to put everything on your cloth mat that just rolls out. There is a corresponding color, an icon for each character. So the guards are on the outside, king is in the center. For the wizard and the jester, whoever's setting up takes the two characters and mixes them up, has them in their hands. The other person gets to pick a hand and we'll say this person's going this way. If they picked this one, the jester would go on this side and the wizard would go on this side, so this player would get to go first. Whoever has the wizard on their side gets to go first. At that point, you start getting to play cards. Each person has been dealt 8 cards, and I'm going to flip them over so you can see what they're working with. For playing cards out in this game, the only rule is you have to play the same color of cards, and it is, yes, it is tied to the character that matches the color of cards. So we'll start with the knights. If this player over here is moving the knights, there are a few different cards. There's 1+1 and ones, and the knights are special because you can move either one of them with these cards, but the only thing is the knights and the king are the royal court, and they are special because these ones can be on the same spaces as anyone else, but the knights always have to be on either side of the king. It doesn't matter if they're very far apart or one is close and one is far away. They have to be on either side of the king. So this person can choose to play. You play your cards one at a time. So it plays it over here, discards this one. They're playing the one. They're moving this knight up one. He can't move any other spots this turn because the king is here and he's only allowed to move one character, and he's picked the knights. So then he can play this one, 1+1. He could have picked them, divided it between 2 characters, or you can just pick one person. So he's picking 1, 2. Then he's doing that again, and he's moving 1, 2. Now he's moving this one, 1. And he cannot, at this point, use this card because one of the rules is you have to be able to use all of the numbers on this card. So he has to be able to move a knight, 1+1. He has to be able to move 2 moves on a knight, and there's only 1 spot left on the board, so you aren't allowed to leave incomplete moves. So that would be it for his turn. At this point, he has a knight, a character in his chateau. That's how you move the crown. If a character's in your chateau, you get to move the crown over 1 spot. If you have multiple characters in your chateau, you get to move over multiple spots. And then the only other bit of that is if you have the whole royal court, which is these 3 characters, on your side of the board in your duchy, then you get to move over, you'd get to move over a spot for that. And then, if this was the setup, another spot for the knight being over there. It's very simple. Once you've played it a couple times, you just need to get used to it. So then we always move the crown before drawing cards. Otherwise you forget if you've drawn a card or not, or forget that you've moved this or not. Then you just draw back up to 8 cards, and you do not show your opponent your cards. This would be a secret. Oops, grabbed too many cards. And the knights are actually the guards, to be correct for the terminology. Now it is this player's turn, and I'm going to show how the king moves. The king is special because if you play 2 of the cards, for the price of 2 cards, you get 3 moves. So if you have 2 cards, then the whole royal court moves over 1. And you play those 2 cards at the same time. That's the only time you play multiple cards at the same time. If they had had another 2, they could have moved the whole royal court, another one, but now they only have this 1 card remaining, and there isn't space to move the king over because the guard's in the spot next to him. So that would be his entire turn. Draw 2 cards, That's it for the king's movements. Now, it's back to this player's turn. We get into the specialty characters, which is the wizard and the jester. These are very key to winning the game. If you are moving, they have a lot of blue cards, so they're going to move the jester. That's really exciting for them. You can move the jester. It's like any other character, 3, 1, 2, 3. But there's a specialty card in there that's a that's a M, stands for the middle. So sometimes it's worth it to go and then move him back just so you can get rid of more of your cards, because then they're going to play 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and get to move the crown over again, refill their hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the jester, if the jester is past the king, so it doesn't have to be all the way in here. It could be anywhere past the king, towards your side. You can use his cards essentially as wild cards for any other character, but the same rules would apply. So if this was the setup and it was a later turn, and we're going to mess with the board and we're going to make it be like this. If he wants to use his cards then to move the knights, let's say we'll just say he had these cards in addition, he could play up to 8 cards, but this is if he had these cards in his hand. He could play 4 and move this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and he could still move the other knight, the other guard, 1. And that would be allowed. He'd be allowed, and it's past him, the guards are. This is the trickiest bit with the jester. He can move other characters past him. He can move the wizard past him. The king, his powers work until the king is right in front of him. If the king, he can't move the king to the same spot as him. That's the trickiest part of this game. So, and you can only pick one character. So the guards count as one character. He chose to move them. If instead he had chosen to move the king, he could, but he could only pick the 3 that he had, 1, 2, 3, and that's as far as he'd be able to move the king, because he's not able to move him past him. That's what you do for the wizard. For the jester, this person is going to move here, and we'll put it back how it was. They're going to move the wizard, and I'm going to show how the wizard's powers work. So 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. That's it for his turn. If the other player doesn't mess with the wizard and he stays here, and he's between the king and the chateau, it's on his side, then the wizard, when it gets back to this player's turn, we'll say this person went, nothing happened, it's fine. It goes back to this person. On their turn, you can choose to play none of your cards and basically summon a character to be in the wizard's spot. So summoned this one to his spot. It still follows the rules of where guards are around the king. That's it for his turn, and it would go to this player's turn. So if you have an end of game, you have a situation at some point where you're like this, that's a big deal, because you can pull the king over and have him be in his chateau, and he would win. Or if it's the end of the game and you have something like this and you're getting down to the last few cards, you can summon the king over to your spot and then win the game. The only other little bit to know is once you get through the deck of cards and somebody's drawn and you shuffle, you flip this over to the other side so it's a little crown, so you know, okay, this is second time through. And then once the cards run out for the next round, the game ends instantly if the crown ends up in a chateau. The game ends instantly if the king ends up in a chateau. But if you get through all of that and it hasn't ended up in a chateau, just whichever duchy the king is in, when the cards run out the second time, that person's the winner. So that's how to play Royal Visit. The target demographic for this game is your favorite twosome. I've played this with my spouse a bunch in the evenings, but also with my older daughter and older son. This has become one of our go-to evening games, which is quite the compliment and honor to achieve. The rule complexity is medium, just because there's a few intricacies to get down the first few times you play where you're going to be referencing the rule book. But after that, it's pretty straightforward what you're doing and what you're allowed to do. So a little bit to get up and running on how it works, but then after that, easy, good to go. How competitive is this game? High, just like a game of tug of war. But it is slower than a game of tug of war, so it can be a little bit more of a sustained drama as you're playing, as the crown is inching towards the other person's side and you're trying to tug it back and just hope you can get the king into your duchy in time, so it won't matter that they almost have the crown over in their chateau. It is fun. It is so fun. It is high drama, but a lot of fun. Speaking of which, the replay value is high. This is a game that we've been playing nightly multiple times, and it's a little bit different. Each time your strategy is different depending on the different cards you get, and where the characters are positioned, but it's simple enough still in what your options are that it doesn't seem like it's anything horribly complex for 9:30 at night on a Tuesday. Similar games, if you like this one, it turns out I'm a big Reiner Knizia fan. That's the designer for this game. Lost Cities is a similar feel to this, which is also a two-player game, but I'd say just a little bit more strategy required. You're embarking on different expeditions, and you're playing out cards to try to maximize your points, but all you're doing on a turn is you're playing a card and drawing a card. I guess I just love the elegant simplicity, but in great strategic decisions that this designer brings to his games. And then the other one that I recommend, also one of his games, is High Society. That you need to have 3 or more players to play. And in that, you are trying to win by, you are collecting the most, bidding to collect the most points, but you don't want to have the least amount of money at the end of the game, which is just really unique and fun. But Royal Visit is such a great game. It is one of our go-tos, and you should absolutely check it out. Thanks, and see you next time from Game Like a Mother.